This experiment is relatively more high-tech than most of my other simple experiments. But just like those, you need to have faith and belief in science to run it. But first, I'm going to demonstrate a principle.
Hang on, just going to knock on this door a second, hang on. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Can you let me in? Or can we have a conversation, please? Hello? The reason I was knocking on the door was to demonstrate what seems to be happening in the double slit experiment. Something in another dimension seems to be trying to communicate with us, saying, look, I'm here. Can we communicate, please? And before anybody thinks it's going to go into quack, pseudoscience and waffle, I'm going to go straight to the experiment where we can test, finally, whether this is what's happening in the experiment. And the setup is this. If you look at the diagram in the video, we fire a single photon towards a screen that's split into a left and a right, two independent detectors. In between the photon source and the middle of the screen, there's a thread placed to split the photon into an interference pattern. A photon detected to the left is considered a 0, and a photon detected to the right is considered a 1, and they're both fed into one processor, so we should generate coherent binary code. And all the experimental evidence suggests that we will, because in all these quantum experiments, the detection always happens within the range of focus, regardless of how wide or narrow that focus is, which at first seems a bit odd, and when you think about it, it's extremely profound. And this is most clear when we look at the which way experiment, but we don't collect the statistical information. The twin band disappears and it goes back to the interference pattern. Nothing physically different happens in any of these experiments. The only difference is what is detected. The idea for this experiment was realised after 3 years of working on the grand unified field theory that explains, solves and unifies everything in physics. But it seems that for whatever reason, it's just too hard for particle physicists to accept that the particle model is wrong. They're vortices, not particles. And they spread out in all directions in spherical waves, but we can only detect them in one dimension of space and time. That's why it's the optical illusion that they're single particles moving through empty space. So I suggest everybody please try that experiment and see for yourself. Everything in the biological realm depends on focus. Whether it's focusing our eyes, our hearing, listen to different conversations, picking out different voices, whether it's moving muscles, whatever, it all depends on focus and exercising focus. And what I've shown is that the field, the space-time fabric, is a physical lattice and it exerts focus as well. And it is trying to communicate with us, zooming in and corresponding to our focus. But as I said, it's much easier to experiment and find out for ourselves. If anybody has got the ability to run that experiment, please run it. If you don't, and you know someone who can, please send it to them and ask them to run it. To doubt that this will work is absolutely normal, but the scientific method is test something. If there's evidence to suggest this is the fact, then test to check. We have the technology now to communicate with this, so let's communicate with it. All the experimental evidence suggests this will work, and if it works, it will give us access to an intelligence that can tell us everything we need to know to bring this planet out of the mayhem and the uncertainty and the confusion and the despair that the planet is currently in, and lead us into a safe future and make sure that our species survives forever. All the evidence suggests it will. So please, if you can try that experiment, please don't waste any time in getting it up and running. And if you can't do it, but you know someone who possibly can, please get it to them as soon as possible and encourage them to get it up and running as fast as they can. May the force be with you.